Today, we're going to dive into a story, the story of Mrs. Charles. Now, on the surface, it sounds pretty simple, but trust me, it packs this incredible lesson about empathy, a lesson that could really change how we connect with and, care for each other. But before we get into all that, let me ask you something. Quick question. Inside your own home, are you a shoes on or a shoes off kind of person? Go on, think about it, and whatever your answer is, just keep it in mind, because that one little habit, it's right at the heart of this whole story.
Okay, so our story kicks off with a problem. A real head-scratcher. It seems so straightforward, but for the caregivers involved, it was just deeply puzzling.
So here's the situation. There's this elderly resident, Mrs. Charles, and she just flat out refused to wear shoes inside her residence. And look, for her caregivers, this wasn't just some quirky little habit. No, this was a huge safety risk. I mean, the danger of her falling was very, very real, and her refusal was a constant worry for them.
So, naturally, the staff knew they had to get to the bottom of this. They went into full detective mode, searching for the why behind what she was doing. And they threw all the clinical, logical reasoning they had at it.
And you know what? All their first ideas made perfect sense. They thought, okay, maybe it's a lifelong habit that's just, more pronounced now because of her condition, or, hey, maybe the shoes just feel really uncomfortable, restrictive. They even considered, could it be that cognitive changes are making it hard for her to see the risk involved? Or maybe, just maybe, she thought shoes were for outside and wearing them inside was dirty. All of these are totally reasonable guesses, right? But none of them hit the nail on the head.
So after all this brainstorming, they were still stuck. Nothing was working. So what was it? What was the real reason? What did they finally figure out that just changed everything?
The breakthrough? Well, it finally happened when they stopped looking at it like a medical problem to be solved or some kind of behavioral issue to be managed. That's when they saw it, the simple, powerful, human truth behind the whole thing.
And there it was, the big aha moment. It wasn't about the shoes being dirty, it wasn't about them being uncomfortable, it wasn't even about her not understanding the risk. It was about something so much deeper, so much more fundamental. See, in her mind, this facility, it wasn't just a facility, it was her home. And you don't wear shoes inside your home. Shoes are for going out.
This right here just lays out the disconnect so perfectly. On one side, you've got the caregivers, thinking logically, right? It's all about safety, preventing falls, following the rules. But on the other side, you have Mrs. Charles. Her logic wasn't about rules. It was emotional. It was based on a whole lifetime of habits and that deep gut feeling of what home is supposed to feel like. For her, the number one priority wasn't safety, it was comfort.
I mean, just think about that for a second. That feeling of home. For most of us, it's our sanctuary, right? It's the place you walk into, and what's the first thing you do? You kick off your shoes, you relax, you unwind. It's an instinct. And for Mrs. Charles, whose condition probably made her hold on even tighter to these familiar comforts, being told to wear shoes in her own space, it just felt completely, fundamentally wrong.
Okay, so once they add this revelation, everything shifted. The whole approach changed. The goal wasn't about forcing a rule on her anymore. Nope, it was about finding a solution that actually made sense in her world.
And the solution they came up with, it was just beautifully simple. First thing they did, they stopped fighting with her about the shoes. Just dropped it. That battle was over. Then they brought in some other options, things that actually fit her idea of being at home. We're talking comfy, non-slip socks, soft slippers. This wasn't some kind of trick to get her to comply. It was a genuine attempt to meet her where she was. And the best part? They still got what they needed, safety, but they got there through compromise and respect, not by forcing the issue.
And guess what? It totally worked. Now, it took a little patience, for sure, but eventually she started wearing a pair of non-slip socks. And here's the little detail that just makes the story so wonderful. The socks were lilac, her favorite color. See, they didn't just find a solution, they found something that actually brought a little piece of personal joy into her day.
So, this whole story about Mrs. Charles and her lilac socks, it's so much more than just a case study in how to care for the elderly, right? It's a huge, powerful lesson in empathy that really applies to every single one of us.
This quote just nails it, doesn't it? The key wasn't to be more forceful or to push the rule harder. They succeeded when they became more understanding. The solution they found had to make sense in her world, not just in theirs.
So, if there's one thing to take away from all this, it's this. True care, and this goes for whether you're a professional or just dealing with your own family or even a friend, it's not about winning the argument. It's not about proving your logic is better. It's about stopping, taking a breath, and actually trying to see the world through their eyes.
It's about respecting the lifetime of habits and experiences that made them who they are.
And that really leaves us with something to think about, doesn't it? Mrs. Charles needed to be safe, yeah, but she also needed to feel at home. And once her caregivers understood that, they found a much better way forward. It really makes you wonder, right? In our own lives, at work, with our families, where is that one place where a little more empathy could completely change everything?